In this video, we're going to cover Tableau data sources. I'm going to connect to our Superstore data source. There are two ways that Tableau can relate tables together. So one way is by a relation. So if I bring out orders and a separate table returns, these two tables will exist in a separate fashion. They're not going to be merged together in one table. You can see they do share a common field, order ID. There's another way we can relate tables, and that's through a join. So I'm going to remove returns, and I'm going to double click on orders. That's going to drill into the join interface. So I'm going to now take returns again and bring it out. And you'll notice that we get this Venn diagram. Now off the bat, it defaults to an inner join. And you can think of this as telling you how it's going to join the two tables. An inner join is going to only return a result set where the order ID in this case, since that's what we're using to join together, where the order ID shows up in both the orders and the returns table. If I were to switch that to a left join, we would grab everything in the orders table and only join on returns where applicable. And we can do the opposite, a right join, grab everything in returns and join the orders on, or a full outer. Typically, when I'm working with data sources, I'm either using an inner or a left join. Because this data set is so simple, we're only joining order ID to order ID, but there may be some cases where you need to join on more than one thing. For example, maybe we have to make sure the order date falls within a specific period. You can add join clauses underneath this. So for example, I'll pick order date. And we also have a list of operators. I could say the order date is equal to, is not equal to, is greater than, is less than. And on this side, if I had a date, I could select that. Sometimes you'll run into an error when you try to join a date to a date time. So in that case, you might have to create a calculated field around that timestamp so that Tableau can do that join accurately. Now we're going to cover some features that Tableau offers for managing metadata. The first thing you can do if you have a column that's unnecessary or unneeded is you can click on it and hide it. There's a couple of reasons for doing this. One, it keeps your data source clean and easy to use. And two, it can actually reduce the size of your extract and actually help improve performance. The next thing we can do is some on-the-fly renaming. So for example, let's say that our segment, we actually call it something else internally. So I want to call that instead my customer level. We can do that renaming. And then within that customer level column, there's what we call members. We can rename those members. We call this aliasing. So if I click on the arrow and select aliases, I can change those on the fly. So maybe my corporate level is the gold level, consumer, silver, and the home office is bronze. Now you see the data change from those previous segments to our new customer level. Another feature we can use is splitting a column. We have order ID here, and it looks like it's broken out into three parts. Maybe the country of the order, the year the order was placed, and then a customer ID. If I click on the down arrow, I can split this column. Tableau is going to look for a character to split on. And it's going to put those three split out fields as new columns at the end of my data set. I'm going to undo that and show you another way you can split. So going back to the same column, if I click on custom split, Maybe the only field that I'm really interested in is the country of order. So I could do a custom split, use the separator of the dash, and then just say grab the first one. Now I have that new column, and I can recall it country and use that in my analysis. Another thing we can do is create a calculation. So in my data set, I've got a few metrics I could use: sales quantity, discount, and profit. Maybe I want a sales price. So I could take my sales field and create a calculated field that's as simple as sales divided by quantity. Now I have a new column called sales price. Okay, there are a few more features that I want to cover. Before I do, though, I do want to backtrack a little bit. So we talked a little bit about relating tables together. We talked about joining tables together. There's one more way we can combine tables, and that's with a union. So I have a data set I just put together in Google Sheets that has maybe a spreadsheet of sales teams broken out by division: sales teams West, sales teams East, and we have a few months of sales data for a few teams on each side. So in Tableau, we're going to combine these together using a union. You'll notice before I jump over, we have a misspelling as well. So that's on purpose. We're going to cover a feature Tableau gives us. Okay, I've already made the connection to that Google Doc. So I'm just going to switch over to um, the sales team data set. I've pulled out the sales teams West data set, and now I'm going to pull out the sales teams East. I'm going to hover over the first table out there, and you can see right here the orange union is letting me know I can drop that, and Tableau will union the two tables together. Okay, those tables are unioned, and they've added a sheet and table name to my data set so I know which rows come from which sheet. I pointed out that misspelling, so Tableau lets us tackle that here in the metadata. July accidentally was misspelled in the other sheet, but that's no problem. I can select the two columns and merge mismatched fields. I'll rename that July 2023. Okay, now we've got our data unioned and it's combined, so it's ready to go almost. I would say that while this format is pretty typical for Excel, I actually prefer to work with the data unpivoted. So in this fashion, it's pivoted out by month. I would like to unpivot that data. So I'm going to select each of my month columns, and in the menu, click on Pivot. That gives me pivot field names and pivot field values. I can simply rename this date and this as sales. Now I'll point out that over here on the right side, you see a little settings cog. If you click on that, you can select to show those hidden fields, that feature that I showed earlier on in the video. And you can also select to show the aliases if you've completed any of those either. Another thing is you can change how your data fields are sorted. By default, they're going to be sorted by the data source order, but you can do A to Z, Z to A in multiple fashions. Okay, the last thing I want to point out, the last feature on this page, is our data source filter. It's going to be found in the top right. You can see that we have 0 filters right now, but if I click on Add, I have the option of selecting a field to filter the entire data source on. So I could come in here and select the the fields that I want to, the dates that I want to select. So why would you want to use a data source filter? Well, there's a few reasons. Maybe you have a very narrow focus of analysis. Maybe you have a very large data set and you need to pare it down before you're able to get the performance you want. Whatever the reason might be, you can add your data source filter before extracting the data. All right, so with my data source prepped and ready to go, I click on sheet 1, and that sets Tableau to, that tells Tableau to start the extracting job. If you're working in the Desktop Pro version, up toward the top, you'll actually see a couple of extra options. You'll see an option to query live or create an extract. Now, you can absolutely query live, but I've found in my own experience, 9 times out of 10, the better idea is to create an extract of your data. Now, the major exceptions to that would be enormous data sets with millions or even billions of rows. You can pre-aggregate and then create an extract, or you can just keep that live connection. Just understand that Tableau will only ever be as fast as the underlying database. So when you're computing numbers and aggregates across billions of rows, that's definitely going to um, be something you'll want to take into account when you're thinking of performance. That begs the question, though, how many rows is suitable for a Tableau data extract? I've found that Tableau extracts can perform quite well into the tens of millions. I think if you're getting to the hundreds of millions, it may be time to flip back over to a live connection or find some way to aggregate the data before bringing it into Tableau. Now that we've covered features around metadata management, we've got a data source ready to create charts and visualizations. In our next video, we're going to do just that.